Hello everyone, it's Jen here. Just making a video to help you understand a little bit more about learning modes. So learning modes is key to our second assignment, which is our essay. And it came up in our, first of all in week 4. There's just a little bit of content on it and I thought I'd talk a little bit more about it so you understand what they are and you'll be ready to jump straight in and tackle A2 and have that little bit more confidence. So I'm just sharing my screen with you. I've just made a tiny presentation. So we want to help you with A2. So our essay title for our descriptive essay says you need to describe 2 different modes of learning and how they align with contemporary education theories and inform the work of teachers. Okay, so we're going to start off with modes of learning. We've been understanding what theories are. So now we're going to look at modes of learning. So what is a learning mode? So I've taken this from page 4.5 in our module. So it says that a mode is a way or a manner in which something occurs, is experienced, expressed, or done. So I've just said a learning mode is a manner in which learning is experienced or undertaken. So a learning mode is the manner in which learning occurs. And I've just written a little example here. So if we're talking about the showing and doing mode of learning, we know that this involves an individual working with something, using their language, showing their skill and practicing it as they go. So I've said the teacher used the showing and doing mode of learning to organize the lessons so students would be working together, learning through interaction and collaborating together. So those there would give the students an opportunity for showing and doing as they learn. So let's keep going. So now we know what a learning mode is. You could say it's a manner, it's a way, it's a method, mode. All of these words we can use interchangeably in learning. So it's a learning mode is a manner in which learning occurs. So let's look at some different types of ones. So what are some learning modes that teachers use? So some of the learning modes include problem solving, motivation, showing and doing, multiple ways of knowing, schemas, self-awareness, and there are many more. So some other ones are collaboration, discussion, feedback and reflection, guided, explicit, using demonstration, using experiential and independent learning. These are all different modes of learning, and these ones here are some ones that you are encouraged to choose from in your A2 task. So there's just some examples. So there are many different types of learning modes. So we're just going to step back a bit to just understand a little bit more about what a learning mode is. So in A1, what did we learn? So this is just one of the visual metaphors that we used as ELAs in the unit, but it showed an individual on a path, and let's say that the goal or the concept and skill was up here. So this individual might have taken a number of different paths, gone this way, or I tried that method, didn't quite get it, let's try this way, let's go back here and across. And you can see that this individual can take a number of different ways to have success in understanding a concept or a skill. So I've said here, a learner can take various paths to learn a new skill. You showed us in A1 that different methods were often needed for someone to gain a new skill or concept. So that's where we have an individual. So the other thing we're going to do in A2 is you're going to discuss the wider educational context. So when we're thinking about learning, learning isn't typically done one-on-one with a teacher. It's usually in a classroom or in a group, and there's a number of students and 1, possibly 2 educators. So you'll have a number of students learning at once. So we go from this idea of single learning to A2, we shift it. So we're thinking about the typical learning environment. We know that there are many different ones, but we're looking at what some would consider a more typical learning environment for the majority of students in Australia. So taking this same analogy here, we had one individual learning before. Goodness me, now you're the teacher and you've got all these different students and they all learn in different ways and they all need to take different paths and different methods and different modes of learning. So how do we meet the needs of all of these students at the same time? So with so many different learning modes, so like the ones we were talking about, problem solving, motivation, multiple ways of knowing, self-awareness, how do we teach a number of students at the same time with success? Goodness me, how do we do it as educators? So the answer is, when you have a number of different students, you actually look at the concept or the skill that you are teaching, and that will guide you. So depending on whether you're teaching someone, so if you're teaching someone how to count, skip counting in twos, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, the way you teach that is going to be completely different from the way that you teach someone how to serve a tennis ball or how to drive a car. So can you see that you look at the concept or the skill, and that is what guides the teacher in the learning modes to use. So I'm just going to talk about that a tiny bit more, just so you understand it before you jump into A2. So what do? We look at the concept being learnt. So this is, we're going to follow our analogy that we had before. So this is a beautiful place called Mont Saint-Michel in the north of France. I am missing travel very much, and this is on my list, and you can see it's beautiful. It's actually out in it's the ocean, but it's like an estuary and it's tidal, and so you can see that we've got this wonderful castle and village, and it's tidal. So it was a way in the olden days that they could have protection when tide was high from invaders. And anyway, this is somewhere that I really would like to be. So if you can imagine that we're going to say that this represents our goal. So let's have a little look here. So when teaching a new skill or concept, what learning modes or manners or methods will a teacher use? We're going to use the concept to guide us. So if you follow my thinking here, I'm going to say that this here is the equivalent of the skill, and I'm going to say it's skip counting. So I want all of my students to be able to skip count. So what am I going to do? You can see that I'm going to have them all start here, but you can see that there's actually many different paths and ways that you can get into this beautiful cathedral up here. So you can see there's paths going along here, they all intertwine and come back here. So it might be that I start with my class here and I'm thinking, oh, well, I'm going to start with my learning mode might be discussion. I'm going to talk about it, maybe find out what they already know, what they can tell me about counting and things like that. And then I might come along here and I might do some problem solving. So say this is my problem solving path, and I've got my students and many of them are engaged and they're learning. I can see their understanding, and then some of them are sort of losing concentration. Oh, so I'm going to go up here to motivation. They all need some motivation, or some of them do. So I'm going to follow some motivation for a little bit. And can you see that you can, if you think of the learning modes as the different paths, all of them get our students up here, but you can see there's lots of different ways that you can do that. So I might think, oh goodness, some of them have got it and some of them are just starting to get it. What if we changed the mode, the learning mode, to showing and doing? Perhaps if they pair up or have small groups and some concrete items, then the peers can actually teach each other in their own words. So can you see how learning modes, we can take our whole group from here and we can follow all different paths and we can come back down again, but The goal is to get to skip counting, but the learning modes that I have employed all relate and support and work well with skip counting. That's going to be completely different from teaching the skill of taking turns or doing breaststroke in the pool or diving or something like that. So can you see that learning modes, there are many of them, they're very valuable, but they're the way that the things and the approaches that a teacher does to teach a concept or skill. So keep that in the back of your mind as we go to thinking about A2. So going back to A2, so we know that there are many different learning modes. So we've got 6 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are many more. We're encouraged in page 4.5 to use these ones here and also use the pairings. There's a good reason for that. There's plenty of information and research on it, and they work really well together when you're doing quite a deep discussion in a 2,000-word essay. You have lots and lots of time, and these all of these topics here give you plenty of meat to work with, so you are encouraged to use that. Then we've helped hundreds and hundreds of students come through this unit, and we've found some of the best ways that have helped them. So in every teaching period, towards the end of the teaching period, we ask you for your feedback. We asked what worked, what didn't work, what was most helpful, what would you say to the coming students, and we take all of that feedback and we try and create supports for it. So these will really help you with A2. So now that you've understood what a learning mode is, you already have been understanding what a learning theory is. Now what you're going to do is use some of our tips here to get you going. So we've got flipped collaborate recordings, just like this one. It's a recording that you watch, and there's 2 of them there, and both of them are helpful to you. We've also got some tip sheets. So if all of this sounds a little bit wordy, right here, it's how to plan your essay. And then tip sheet 2 is how to actually write your essay. And then just down here, I've got another one that says how to research this assignment. So make sure you head to our Padlet, because there's lots of information in there that will help you. Don't forget our live brainstorm session. If you can't make it, don't worry at all. The recording will be really helpful to you as well. And that's the link there. So let's just go back to where we started, which was our assignment. So now we're going to describe 2 different modes of learning and how they align with contemporary education theories and inform the work of teachers. So it might be that you choose the second option. So you're going to show us how the learning modes of showing and doing, which aligns with sociocultural theory, and the learning mode multiple ways of knowing, which aligns with post-structural theory, how it informs the work of teachers. So how does it help us in the learning environment and support the diversity of students that we represent? And finally, my big advertisement for the Padlet. It has everything that you could possibly need. You can link in there and see all of our assignment details, lots of tip sheets and everything like that. So I'm hoping that this has helped you, and any questions at all, please share them on your Q&A thread for A2, and your ELA would love to help you. Thanks everyone.